Hi, hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby, and tonight we're gonna take a journey. I'm just kidding, I was just being dramatic, but I was thinking about starting The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna tonight, and I was thinking I should vlog this, right? Because this book is like over 400 pages, and it's Kristen Hanna, who is one of my favorite authors. She has previously written The Nightingale and The Great Alone, which are two of my favorite books of all time. These books both really have stuck with me over the years. This one's like a World War II historical fiction book about these two sisters, and then this one is like a historical fiction novel about, you know, this young girl who moves to Alaska with her family when she's like 12 or 13-ish. And both of these stories were so incredibly moving and brought me to tears so many times, and they just mean a whole lot to me, you know? And so now Kristen Hanna has this new book, The Four Winds. Thought it would only be appropriate to vlog my experience reading this book because I feel like this one is just gonna hit, you know? It's probably gonna hit in the same way that those two do. I recently just acquired the audiobook. Thank you to the publisher for sending me the audiobook. It's very generous. And so because I have the audiobook and I have this copy from Book of the Month, I was like, it's a match made in heaven. I need to read this book now. It's a sign. And because I've kind of been in like a reading slump lately, I feel like it would benefit me to just get lost in like a historical fiction, beautiful ass story that'll probably take me a couple days to get through because it's so freaking thick. I don't know too much about this one. The only thing I do know about it is that it takes place in Texas in like the 1920s or 1930s during the Great Depression, and it kind of talks about the struggle that was the Great Depression and like how it affected their families and shit like that. I'm sure it's gonna be beautiful. I'm sure it's gonna make me cry. I've already seen so many reviews from my friends that are just absolutely loving this, and my friend Mike is reading it right now. You might know him, he's a booktuber, and we're gonna be buddy reading this book, so I'm starting it tonight. It's kind of late right now, it's almost midnight. I think maybe it's after midnight, and I do work in the morning kind of early, so I'm not planning on staying up like super late tonight reading, but I would like to get started. I would like to get a gist. I would like to dip my toe into the water. Okay, I'm gonna shut up and start reading.
Prologue. Hope is a coin I carry, an American penny given to me by a man I came to love. The man. They seem to think it meant nothing to cook and clean and bear children and tend gardens, but we women of the Great Plains worked from sun up to sundown to toil on wheat farms until we were as dry and baked as the land we loved. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I swear I can still taste the dust. 1921. To damage the earth is to damage your children.
Good morning. Last night I read up to chapter 6, which puts me about 60-ish pages in, and I just got to the part where it jumps from 1921 to 1934. So the first 5 chapters were really freaking good. The main character Elsa is giving me such Jo March vibes. Like at the beginning of this book, she's like, I want to be a writer, and she wants to go to college, and she loves books, and she's just like, she values her independence so much, and she kind of talks about how it's unfair, the way that women get treated in their society, and she's just like very ahead of her time, I feel like. And the way she just like rebels against like her father and like what society expects from her, it's great. I really enjoyed it so much, and the first part was already like really powerful and really intense. Like there was a lot of things happening, like there wasn't even a dull moment, and I just have a feeling I'm really gonna connect with this main character Elsa. Like she's just so interesting to read from her perspective, and I don't know, I'm just really curious to see where this is going. So this morning I'm going to work all day today, but I'm gonna listen to the audiobook on the way to work, and then I am going in early this morning to do some office work, so I'll still have time to like listen to the audiobook.
1934. I see 1/3 of the nation ill-housed, ill-clad, ill-pleased, with teeth and tongue, and a new wagon off farm, and all time. Milo's plodding, even football steps rang out all its and then worse than weighing her down. It had resurrected all the insecurities of childhood. Somewhere along the way, Elsa had begun to withdraw from the radar. First hoping that her daughter would grow out of her own swings, and then, worse, believing that the radar had...
Hello, it is now lunchtime, break time here, and I was able to listen to a lot of this book all morning. I got 26% of the way into the audiobook. Now I'm on chapter 10, which puts me at like 122-ish pages in. I'm still really enjoying this. I feel like it definitely took a turn in the part where it jumped from 1921 to 1934. The vibe definitely took a turn because a lot has happened in Elsa's life since she was younger, and I'm still really enjoying it. There was just like something that happened in the plot that I was just like, oh shit, like something just happened. But I feel like these characters are just so fleshed out, and I can so easily visualize this. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying it. I just made food really quick, and oh my god, my mask is like driving me nuts. I don't know if it's just like too tight on my face, but like it's hurting on the back of my ears like so bad. But anyways, I'm just gonna listen to more of this audiobook while I'm on break right now, and hopefully get even further into this book. Once again,
What?
Austin's reading the fucking ending.
Well, yeah. I have to know how if it's good before I read it.
Don't say uh-oh.
I already said uh-oh. That's already implanted.
Don't spoil me.
Don't spoil it?
No.
It says dreams right here.
No. that's all you can say.
I don't know.
That's enough words.
Doesn't I love you?
Huh?
I don't know if that's important or not.
Oh my gosh. Just stop speaking.
Stop speaking?
Yeah. That's enough.
Real life today in the Dust Bowl of the continent if it rains. While Texas and the Great Plains face the Dust Bowl, the rest of the country sunk into the Great Depression following the stock market crash.
It's a little bit later in the night now. It's like 11 o'clock at night, and today I listened to a good chunk of the audiobook. I'm nearly 200 pages in now. I'm on page 197, and I just got to the next like part of the book, which is 1935. Something that I enjoy about reading historical fiction, and especially like Kristen Hanna's historical fiction, is that it makes me really interested in learning the real history of like what happened, you know, because this book is kind of revolving around the Dust Bowl, if you didn't know. I vaguely remember learning about the Dust Bowl when I was in elementary school, but I remember it being one of the things that like really scared me. Like the idea of the Dust Bowl was like really scary to me, and I specifically remember learning about the Dust Bowl. I really remember learning about tornadoes and like volcanoes, and I remember those things just like really terrified me. I think that's why my anxiety started at like a pretty young age, just thinking of all the horrors of the world. To be honest, I'm not a huge like history buff. Like I don't know a lot of American history because a lot of American history is just so depressing and just like horrific to learn about that I'm just like not super interested in learning more about American history, and it's always been one of my worst subjects in school. Like I'm just not good at remembering history stuff, but learning about the Dust Bowl is like really fascinating. I've actually been like looking up online all night. I've been looking up videos on the Dust Bowl and like looking up old photos of it, and it's just really fascinating to learn more about it. Like I feel like I'm kind of dumb because I'm still trying to understand the science of like how this happened, you know, because I know it had a lot to do with like the soil was eroded and rotted and it was just like blowing up dust, and it also had to do with the fact that Texas was experiencing like an insane drought where it wasn't raining for like years, and it was like an accumulation of a lot of different things that caused the Dust Bowl. But just the idea of like a dust storm coming at you, the fact that they would call these things black blizzards because you literally couldn't see anything because there was so much dust in the air, and the fact that people would get dust pneumonia back then, and like that was a thing. It just reminds me kind of like that scene in Interstellar, like those scenes in Interstellar where they're like living in a dust bowl basically and they just can't breathe because there's so much dust. Like I don't know why the idea of that just terrifies me so much, and the fact that this actually happened in real life is just so scary. And doing more research on it, it's just crazy to hear about because the Dust Bowl lasted 6 years. Like I can't even imagine dealing with something like this for 6 years. And not only that, but it happened during like the Great Depression, and so it's like no wonder so many people were like picking up and moving from Texas to places like California because like they had to get out of there. Like people were dying, they couldn't breathe. And I don't know, I just think it's really fascinating to learn about this history, and I feel like that's the case with like, you know, Kristen Hanna's other book, The Nightingale. Like I feel like I wanted to learn so much more about World War II, and oh my gosh, World War II is another one of the things that absolutely terrified me learning about it as a kid. I remember having nightmares about it. I would cry about it all the time Like World War II is like a really heavy subject matter, and so I don't tend to gravitate towards books around World War II because I just find it all to be so sad and so depressing. But I feel like Kristen Hanna just really writes absolutely stunning, beautiful books that follow characters that just make you feel like you're right there in it, you know? And so I really love her books for that reason, and I feel like I'm just really appreciating this book because it's making me want to like look up more history about what actually happened during the Dust Bowl. There's this really iconic picture from the Dust Bowl that I remember being in like all of our textbooks when we were kids. It's this picture of a woman with like her 2 kids like facing away because like there's like dust storms and stuff like that. And this photo, I feel like this photo could have inspired this book, because I feel like just this picture, like just looking at this picture is making me feel like the exact vibe from this book. I feel like Kristen Hanna could have just like looked at this picture and been like, I'm gonna write a book about that woman, and that's pretty much the story that we're getting here. I don't really have any plans tonight. I don't work tomorrow, so I can stay up as late as I want reading this book tonight, which I will do because I'm loving it.
She covered her head in her cleanest kerchief, wishing that today of all days she still owned a hat. Belinda would all be wearing hats.
So last night I got all the way up to page 308, and I officially got to the part where it's like year 1936 now. And holy shit, I am still really enjoying this book. I think I even like had a nightmare about this book last night because I woke up in like a freaking sweat, like panic. And I think it's because this book is like stressing me out and like creeping into my subconscious. Honestly, this book is just making me extremely grateful for all the things that I have in my life, because it's making me realize just how quickly things can get shitty for people, you know? And that's like really scary to me. And, you know, the fact that these characters are talking about, you know, how they only have like $27 to get them through months. And it's like, I know money has obviously changed over time, and $27 used to be a pretty decent amount back then, but still, it's like, wow, like that just makes you think, you know? Or the fact that you can do a whole day's work and only get like a few dollars. It's just wild, and it just really makes me feel grateful for all that I have. I still just feel so much for these characters, and there's something that just happened very recently right now in the book that I'm like, oh fuck my god, oh geez, oh no. And so I'm really curious to see how that turns out, because I just feel so bad for Elsa. Like, oh my god, she's just been through so much as a character, and it's so good. Anyways, this morning I am off to get food. I'm going to Starbucks to pick up coffee, and then I'm going to my favorite local breakfast sandwich place to get breakfast sandwiches for me and my sister. Rachel's actually making blueberry muffins right now, so we're also gonna have those. I'm probably gonna try to do more yoga, which I've been trying to get back into, and then I'm hoping I can read more of this book today, maybe even finish it, who knows. That is sweet. I will still drink this entire thing. Oh my god, yes, yes. Hello, it has been a really long day. It's like 10:30 at night right now, and I haven't read a single page since this morning. I really thought I was gonna be able to finish this today. I mean, to be fair, it's only 10 o'clock. I only have this much left, so I might just like stay up a little late and try to finish this tonight. Damn, but I did get so much done today. I mean, I know it doesn't seem like it, but I did. I'm going to curl in bed right now and try to finish this book and start back in again. I'm ready to get my heart shattered because you know it'll happen. And I mean, I'm listening to it simultaneously, like listening to the audiobook while reading the book, and I'm listening to it on 2.55 times speed. So like I only have about 4 hours left, but listening to it on that kind of double speed, I should be able to get through it in about a little over 2 hours. So here we go.
Friends will come, friends will go. They all seem to change while I'm still the same. 'Cause I just can't let go. And there's no one to blame. It's just the way it is. Like stone, emotionless in this world of stories. Oh, like stone, I'll be here forever, waiting for your call.
I can't even deal with how perfect that ending was. So sad. I knew the ending was gonna be sad, but God, I did not think it was gonna make me this emotional. Oh my God. Dude, Kristen Hannah, like every time, she just makes me care so much about these characters, and I just feel so bad for everything that they went through in this book. And oh my God, that ending just like broke my heart. Oh God, I really love Elsa's character. She's like one of my favorite characters that I've read in a long time. I really felt like connected to her, and the struggles and everything that she had to go through in this book is just so unimaginable. Like, Kristen Hannah just really knows how to get me right in the feels.
To the nation, President Franklin D. Roosevelt said, "I shall never forget the fields of wheat so blasted by heat that they cannot be harvested."
It's been about 3 days since I finished it, and I just haven't been able to stop thinking about this book since I finished it. I haven't really been able to start another book since I've finished it because I just feel so connected still to this story and so invested in these characters, and I just loved this book so fucking much. It's probably like maybe my favorite book I've read so far this year. I just really, really loved this. Like, nobody does historical fiction like Kristen Hannah does, okay? Nobody makes me care more about characters. Like, I feel like with every one of her books that I've read, this is the third book that I've read from her, but from each reading experience I've had with her, she makes me want to like learn more about the setting or the time period. Like, or for example, when I read The Great Alone, I was super interested in books that take place in Alaska after I read that book because I got so fascinated by Alaska and like the community in it. And then of course when I read The Nightingale, it really inspired me to want to learn more about World War II, and I was really invested in trying to read more World War II books, which is so rare for me. Like, that's so outside of my comfort zone. Now with this one, like, this one has me wanting to read more of these like dramatic time period books like this, but I know that it's just Kristen Hannah's writing specifically that works for me. But God, this story was just so beautiful. It was everything. And I love that Kristen Hannah writes these beautiful epic stories about females in a time where females just weren't taken as seriously as their male counterparts, you know? Like, I think it's so important for her to tell these stories about women and what women had to go through. Loved this so much. Like, after I finished this book and I after I heard those like final words of this book and I was sitting there bawling my eyes out for like 10 minutes, on the audiobook that I listened to, there was like a whole interview with Kristen Hanna at the end of the book that was like 30 minutes long, and I literally just sat there crying and I was just listening to her interview the entire 30 minutes because I was just so curious to hear like about what she had to say. And she was basically saying that after she wrote The Nightingale, she knew that was like one of the saddest books she had ever written, and she wanted to write something that was like not like the American version of like the trauma of The Nightingale, but she wanted to write something that was more of an American version of something that Americans went through that was like a hardship. And so I think the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl was such a great topic for this book because it was so interesting to learn more about it, especially because this book is mirroring the society that we're living in so much right now. I mean, the fact that we're like currently going through a pandemic and a recession and like our economy is shit and people are struggling, you know, like it really does mirror what was happening during the Great Depression. And so I feel like that's why this book hits even harder now than it would if it had come out in like, you know, a couple years ago. Like some points that were brought up in this book I feel like are still very relevant today, like the fact that the government doesn't pay people enough to have a living. Like the government needs to pay everyone a living wage. Like I think that's like so relevant right now with like the minimum wage debate that's been going on, and the way we treat immigrants is very relevant still, obviously. Sorry, my battery died. But anyways, the fact that immigration is still such a relevant topic in this book was also something that really moved me. Just because someone isn't born in America doesn't mean they don't deserve the same quality of life as somebody who is born in America. Even though these characters are from Texas, so like this doesn't necessarily apply to these characters, but I just mean the message of immigration is such a metaphor for all these other things that we experience in our society. Oh my god, that ending just made me like bawl my eyes out. I mean, as you saw, like it's been a long time since I've cried this hard over a book. I just think something I really loved about this book too is like the mother-daughter relationship in this book and the arc of that relationship. It was just really stunning and really beautiful. I mean, you guys know I love reading about mother-daughter relationships, and I wanted to talk about some spoilers at the end here because I feel like this will be my only opportunity to really talk about spoilers. So if you haven't read this book yet, if I haven't persuaded you enough, please go and read this book. Loved it so much. Easy 5 stars. One of the best books I've ever read. But now to just jump into a few spoilers that I want to talk about. The first thing is Elsa and Jack. Holy shit, they are so cute. I loved his characters so much. Like him and Elsa were so fucking cute. Like he was so nice to her and sweet to her, and he just cared so much. And I just love Jack's character so much because I feel like he really represents like the hope for the future, you know, like he really cares about the people and he just wants to do the right thing for everyone, you know. And I loved his character so much. Elsa and Loreda's mother and daughter arc, like their story arc, was one of the most beautiful things that I've ever read because, you know, in the beginning of the book it seemed like they had a really hard, difficult relationship because they just did not get along, and it was obviously like that, you know, teenage girl angst. Like she just was so mad at her mom all the time and blamed everything on her mom. But like to see them get close towards the end, and then after what happened with Elsa, okay, like dude, after Elsa got fucking shot, I couldn't believe it. Like I don't know why I did not see the book going in that direction. I did not think Elsa was going to die. I thought Jack was going to die and I thought it was going to be really sad, but I did not expect Elsa, our fucking main character, to die. And then the rest of the book gets told from her daughter's point of view. Oh my god. And when Elsa was dying and she was like looking at Jack and she's like, god, what a life we could have had. Like, love at the end how Loretta goes to like, and like she robs the place but she's dressed as a boy, and so then like when they're looking for like who robbed them, they're only looking for the boys, and she's like, sometimes it's good to be a woman. Like, bitch. God, when Loretta was like, after Elsa had died and she's like, I miss her so much, I can't breathe, how will I make it like this for the rest of my life? And then Jack's like, tell her now, I've been talking to my mom that way for years. And she like has to go to the grave and like talk to her mom. And oh my god, the way at the very end how she calls her mom a warrior, because like Elsa was such a fucking queen, and it's like she's finally acknowledging the fact that her mom did the best she fucking could for her family, and like that is so beautiful. And I love how she says the same thing, like, hope is a coin I carry, given to me by a woman I will always love, because that was like the speech that Elsa said to like the whole crowd when she was like leading the fucking like strike when she was like, hope is a coin that I carry. Like that was the exact line that she said, and now she's like saying it about her mom. Ugh, I can't. And then at the very end of the book when she says the first Martinelli to go to college, a girl, and like she's going to college. I also wrote down the quotes that I really liked when Jack told her, because Elsa was like, oh, I haven't gone dancing in like a long time, and then she was like, but there's not any music, and he was like, we are the music. Oh my god, that was so beautiful, and so like it just made me like gasp out loud when he said that. And it totally reminded me of the Stephen King book 11/22/63, because they always say stuff like that about music and like dancing. But I loved that quote. And I also love this quote that I underlined. It says, courage is fear that you ignore. And I don't know, I just thought that that was so powerful and so moving. But yeah, god, I just felt so bad for these characters, like their experience and them being on this journey from like experiencing the hell that was this dust bowl, you know, like there were these fucking dust, hurricane, tornadoes, craziness for years, and like her kid nearly almost died, you know, from this dust storm. And then to go from that shitty of a life and thinking like, I will go and make it in California and I will be okay, and then to go and make it to California and actually like try to make a life for yourself, but then get treated so poorly from the locals there. Like I had no idea about any of this history, and like obviously I know maybe not all of it is real, but I'm sure it's all inspired by like true events. And I just can't believe that these Californians were so shitty to these people. They would literally call them Okies. Like what even the fuck? And the way that they would try to act like they're superior and like they wouldn't help them. Like even when they would go to the hospital, they'd be like, oh well, we don't help your kind, or we're only here to help Californians who pay taxes. It's like, what the fuck? Like where's the humanity? Like I can't believe it. And like the fact that they had to like literally live in like these fields with their tents and stuff because like they wouldn't rent to them, not to their kind. Like, oh my god, it's just so sad. Like, I just can't believe after everything this family had already been through with, like, the Dust Bowls and everything, that they had to go and deal with all of this shit in California, too. Like, I'm just so inspired by Elsa and her story. It's just so moving, and it's like, they literally had it so bad, but she was still able to, like, make ends meet and make it work somehow. God, I can't even stand that fucking guy. What was his name? Welty or whatever. He was like the leader of like the cotton picking people, and he was just like, he would literally just be like, oh, I have a bunch of people lined up to take your job and I'm just gonna cut your wage by 10% all the time. And just act like these people just didn't even matter, like they weren't even people. Like I just hate that so much. Like the wages these people were getting were absolutely ridiculous. Like you cannot live off of that wage even in those times, because obviously I know money has changed in value over the years, but even still. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking about this book now. God, I loved it so fucking much. If I had to choose like which Kristen Hanna was my absolute favorite, I would probably still say The Nightingale, just because I don't know, it's too soon for me to say if this one would beat The Nightingale for me, because it hasn't sat with me that long yet. But I think The Nightingale is still my favorite, and then The Four Winds is definitely my second favorite, and then The Great Alone is my third favorite. But they're all so fucking great. I also recently just watched the show Firefly Lane, and I loved it so fucking much that now I kind of want to read that book too. So if you've read that book, let me know your thoughts on that one. If you've read this book, then please let me know your thoughts on it. This book is just gonna stick with me for so long. Like I just really loved Elsa's character, and I just thought she was so strong and so inspiring. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye.
What are we fighting for? Back into the